Have you ever looked back on a past relationship and just thought to yourself, how on earth did I not see that? Trust me, you are not alone. So many of us end up in situations that, in hindsight, were just full of warning signs. Today, we're going to dive deep into the psychology of why this happens, why there's this powerful, hidden tug of war going on inside our heads when it comes to love.
Okay, so let's start with a little thought experiment. Just imagine for a second that every single decision in your love life, from saying yes to a first date to deciding to be exclusive, was totally random. A complete 50-50 coin toss.
I mean, if you think about it, with that much randomness at every single turn, very few couples would ever actually make it. The odds would be completely stacked against any relationship lasting a year, let alone leading to marriage. It just seems statistically impossible, right? But this is where reality gets really weird.
Despite those odds, a whopping 80% of Americans have been married at some point. So what's going on here? If our choices aren't just random coin flips, what is this invisible force that's pulling so many of us toward commitment? This puzzle really reveals two powerful and kind of competing forces at play. Let's break down the first one.
So this first force is a deep, often subconscious push. Think of it like a powerful current in a river that's always pulling us towards starting, continuing, and deepening our relationships. Sometimes, even when we probably shouldn't. Researchers have a name for this. They call it the progression bias, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's our built-in tendency to make choices that move a relationship forward instead of choices that might end it. It's like our brain's default setting is always leaning towards yes. Yes to another date, yes to making it official, yes to trying to make it work.
And it's fascinating what's actually fueling this bias. On a biological level, you've got that rush of infatuation hormones, dopamine, oxytocin, lighting up our brain's reward centers. Then you've got the social pressure from family, friends, and just culture that tells us being in a couple is the goal. And of course, there are our own internal fears, the fear of being alone, or even just the guilt we might feel about rejecting someone.
And this quote from the researchers just nails it, doesn't it? Getting into a relationship is often easier than getting out of one. Because of this powerful push, the path of least resistance is often just to keep moving forward. It explains a lot, but it's not the whole story. So while this progression bias is busy pushing us forward, we often run into signals that are basically screaming at us to slow down or maybe even to turn around. And these, of course, are the infamous red flags. Now, let's be super clear here. Red flags are not just little quirks or minor annoyances. They are genuine warning signs that point to some pretty unhealthy or even harmful dynamics down the line. You could almost say they're the universe's way of tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, you really need to pay attention to this. Let's look at a few big ones. One of the most common ones is constant criticism. And we're not talking about constructive feedback here. We're talking about the steady stream of put-downs, sarcastic comments, or jokes at your expense that just slowly chip away at your self-worth until you feel like you can't do anything right. Another huge one is a partner who just doesn't respect your boundaries. This can look like a lot of different things, pushing you to share things you're not ready to, looking through your phone, or just ignoring you when you say no. At its core, it's a fundamental lack of respect. And this one is particularly dangerous, isolating behavior. This is when a partner tries to cut you off from your friends and family. They might criticize the people you love or make you feel guilty for spending time with them. It's a strategy to remove your support system, which makes you way more dependent on them. So you've got this powerful internal push moving you forward, and these very clear warnings telling you to stop. And this is where the battle really begins. This is the conflict that explains why we so often manage to overlook, excuse, or sometimes completely miss the red flags that are right there in front of us. And it really is an internal tug of war. On one side of the rope, you have the push, that fear of being alone, the social pressure, the hormonal love high, and all the time and energy you've already invested. But on the other side, you have the warning, the emotional distance you feel, the controlling behavior, the lies, the constant fighting. It's a battle between what we want to be true and what is actually happening. So when we dig into the psychology, we can see exactly why the push side wins so often. The number one reason? Infatuation. Those love hormones literally put blinders on us. Then there's denial, which is just our brain trying to protect us from a painful reality. Wishful thinking has us falling in love with potential, not the person in front of us. The sunk cost fallacy tells us, well, I've already put in so much time. And confirmation bias makes us actively look for evidence that things are great, while conveniently ignoring all the evidence that they're not. Look, just understanding this internal conflict is incredibly powerful, but knowing about it isn't quite enough. The real goal here is to go from being pulled around by these hidden forces to consciously and intentionally choosing your own direction. So, if you're listening to this and you feel like you're stuck in that tug of war, you feel the push to stay, but you see the warnings to leave, what can you actually do to start seeing things more clearly?
Well, it boils down to a few key actions. First, get really clear and specific in your communication. Instead of saying, "You're always so critical," try an I statement, like, "I feel hurt when you make comments about my cooking." It shifts from accusation to impact. Second, you have to set firm boundaries. Clearly say what isn't okay with you and why. And third, and this one is so important, get an outside perspective. Talk to friends, family, a therapist, someone who can help you see past your own blind spots.
Ultimately, it all comes down to this: just recognizing that these forces are real. That biological push for connection and those rational warnings of a bad fit, that's the first most important step. Because once you can see the tug of war for what it is, you're not just a passenger getting pulled along anymore. You're in the driver's seat, and you get to choose which way to go.